social media, make sure it's up, make sure it's on everything, and we'll go ahead and get started with this episode. Yep, it's showing up on my Twitter. Let's check Facebook.
It's on your personal, right?
Yep, personal account. Yep.
Yeah, got it.
And I'm gonna quote tweet it from Titos&Chicken, so it's showing up on there as well. Then we can go ahead and get started. And, there it is. Like already did it. Sweet. Go tweet. Okay. All right, good to go. Guys, welcome back to episode 98 of Titos&Chicken, your unofficial South Carolina Gamecocks podcast, coming at you with a low country state of mind. Y'all, I got a full house here with me today. I think this is the first time we've had three guests on, I'm excited. Lindsay, who's always with me, co-host here. I got Zach from Famously Garnet, and I got JC Sherbert here with me. Guys, what's going on?
Well, good to be with you today. Always love being on Titos&Chicken. I love the name of the show, and certainly good to catch back up with you, Evan. So that's good to be here.
Yeah. Lindsay, how you doing, girl?
We're good over here, getting super stoked for football season, my favorite time of year. Counting down the days, so
we're getting there. Zach, Mr. Countdown over here. How many more days we got, by the way?
27. Shout out to Victor Hampton. We got to give that man a lot of love. Yeah, so,
there we go.
27 days away, man. We're stoked.
27, almost there. We're getting there. Guys, please like, subscribe, comment. Obviously, help get this podcast, continue to get this podcast out there. That would be greatly appreciated. We're going to jump into one topic real quick before we get into our season breakdown here, or first half of our season breakdown. We're going to talk about this whole Costco fiasco with tickets here. JC, I'm going to let you jump into this one first. What did you think about the whole thing with it being with it exploding on social media?
I didn't care, and I think part of the reason is this. You look at the East Upper stands most games, and even big games last year like Kentucky. I was at that game, and I intentionally chose to sit in East Upper because I'm getting old and I don't like crowds, but I don't like these. Y'all need to spread out, And my fiance was with me, and it was her first ever Carolina game. And I didn't want to sit in like a box, which is where I normally try to sit if I can, because I wanted her to experience it. So when I was a kid, I used to sit in East Upper, and it was packed. But if you've noticed over the years, those seats don't get sold. They don't get sold to season ticket holders. If you have a big visiting crowd, such as Clemson last year, they'll sell them. But, like the Florida game last year, as big as that game was, I mean, they didn't really count that many tickets for it. And so I think while the stadium is at the current capacity, because if you notice the trend around college football is to decrease capacity, and it's actually gone down by about 4,000 with the recent remodeling. Before you do that, you need to make as much money as you can. I know Clemson people kind of took a shot at it, but man, I remember during the Bowden era, they sold tickets at Bilo. So, Costco is a little bit more classy than certain Bilos. Now, there's certain Bilos that are more classy, a little more classy than others. There's different levels of Bilo, but, I think they called them the Bilo Bengals at the time, So, look, schools do this all the time. It's kind of cattywampus, and you're going to catch crap from opposing fans. Obviously, if you're selling, all you can eat pass and a parking pass and a couple tickets at Costco. But look, they sell lots of things at Costco. They sell honeymoons at Costco. You can go to Cabo if you're a Costco member. All those things are classy. So, I don't mind it in terms of the execution and the planning of it. But I understand why it would kind of be like a funny thing that opposing fans would kind of take exception to, and maybe some of South Carolina's fans as well. But I just don't, I didn't care. It wasn't something like me, like I held my head in my hands or anything. out of embarrassment because, they're trying to make $1. I mean, that's, it's either you sell them at Costco or they dress up like empty seats and people want to talk about what affects recruiting.
Yeah.
Start having look, you don't have a big crowd. They go someplace else and there is a big crowd that matters. So I didn't mind it at the end of the day, but I certainly see where people would sort of chuckle.
Poke fun at. Yeah. Obviously, mainly the Clemson fan base.
Sure.
That was I was seeing a lot of those comments from the most part. There are a couple of other schools that actually do it. I think Rutgers is one of them.
Louisville too.
Who? Louisville does it as well?
Yeah. Oregon.
In Oregon? Okay. So we're not the only team.
Well, no. I'm just glad you said Oregon because you mentioned those other two, and I think Carolina as a fan base is like, well, those two schools, Rutgers and Louisville, my God, But Oregon, I mean, they have great crowds, great fans. It's a large fan base, a national fan base, really. So you're not in bad company if they need the money because I mean they got Phil Knight writing them checks. What do they need to do at Costco, right?
Good point.
Yeah,
Zach, I saw you attacking a couple of Clemson fans during this time. What do you think about the whole situation with the tickets being sold at Costco?
Yeah, honestly, I think I was the first one that really stirred that all up. I went into Costco on, I guess it was Monday or Tuesday on a visit, and right there, there was a pallet showing it, and I was like, oh, man, that's awesome. So I posted about it on Twitter, Facebook. Next thing I know, I've got 1,000 shares on this post on Facebook, over the X amount of likes. People are going crazy in the comment section. Clemson fans, Carolina fans clashing. And then next thing you know, you got screenshots of Groupon that Clemson has to offer right now for tickets. So one way or the other, you get fans in. But the way I look at it is that, a lot of fans out there, they may not have that money to go to these games, be able to go to, be able to go to the parking lot and everything. Because, I mean, the parking, that stuff, that's expensive, for like season parking and whatnot. So being able to offer that parking, the food, and then of course the tickets. I mean, I think it's great. And as JC was saying, I mean, they don't fill up, that top deck. I mean, especially when it's hotter than Hades out there. So I think it's great for South Carolina what they've done.
And I'll say this too. Obviously, in the last 20 years, the price to go to a South Carolina football game's increased. I mean, it used to be $20 a ticket. You'd pay $30 for the Clemson game, and there was no seat tax. There was no extra, and it honestly, it did price some fans out. But that's happened all over the country. I mean, we look on TV and we see Georgia is packed every weekend during a national championship run, or Clemson's packed during a championship run, or Alabama. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you look at some places around the SEC like Florida and Auburn, even Auburn, unless it's a huge game, some of those day games, I mean, Jordan-Hare is not full. So the sport's changing, and the way we consume the games has changed. TVs. And look, I just know in my mind, and I'm 45 years old, right? So I'm getting on up there. I used to drive down from Nashville, Tennessee for every home game in the mid-2000s. If you've ever made that drive from Nashville, that was kind of a guilty pleasure of mine going to the games. I always look forward to it. Mm-hmm. Now, I can sit on the couch. I have 3 TVs going. I can get my beer. I got a beer right there next to me.
Right.
We make a buffet full of like goodness, like teeny weenies and little meatballs and sub sandwiches and chicken wings. And then if it's a night game, we grill steaks. I can go to the bathroom anytime I want. There's nobody.
You don't got to wait in line.
There's nobody sitting next to me. I have to crawl over to get there, And so a lot of times it's just a lot, for some people it's a lot easier. Now, not that I don't love the games that I go to, but it had a great time last season. But it's, it's just one of those things where you have to get people in somehow. Mm-hmm. And that Costco deal is not bad. I didn't know Clemson had a Groupon. That's even better.
Yep.
So we can debate which one's classier, Groupon or Costco. I don't know.
Right?
I can't go to Cabo with a Groupon, right? So
yeah, that's funny. Well, all right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and jump into this episode with our first half of the season breakdown. Obviously, going to start with Georgia State here. Sean Elliott returns back to Columbia. 8-5 last year. for Georgia State. They finished 6-2 in conference. They beat Coastal. I would say that was their biggest win. Coastal was top 25 at the time. First meeting between the two schools ever. So that's pretty exciting as well. They got a pretty solid quarterback. Granger, dual threat guy, put up some pretty solid numbers from what I was seeing. I would say all in all, a pretty solid team. I don't see this being as a Eastern Illinois first game of the season walkthrough. No, I don't at all. Lindsay, I'm gonna start with you. What do you think about this matchup here with Georgia State?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Sean Elliott's coming back. I think Jemias Williams is still there too, is he not?
Yes, he is.
Back?
Yep.
Okay. Like you said, I had Granger down, dual threat. Also, their run game, their run attack was pretty strong last year. And I think that's what I'm looking for, to see our defense be able to stop the run effectively. I think we slipped a little last year in that area. So I think that's going to be important. I think the linebackers, especially hopefully a healthy Sherrod Green back in action, Brad Johnson, those leadership positions right there are going to make a huge difference. And I think it will be competitive. It's not going to be a pushover, like you said. I think we'll win. I think that energy, a night game in Williams-Brice will make the difference. But I'm looking to see the defense be able to stop the run better than they have, especially looking at last year.
Okay. What do you got score-wise with this game?
I have us winning. My score here, I have 35-17. So a close one.
Okay. I like that. Zach, what you got here on this matchup?
Yeah, Lizzie brought up a great point about those running backs. You had 3 return. I think they each had 500 yards each for those guys. They bring a lot of good returners, back from Georgia State, and bringing Sean Elliott, back to South Carolina. That's interesting, and I know Sean's in town a good bit, so he's no stranger to Columbia even after he left. So it's be good to see him back. Really going to be able to see what Jordan Strawn has to show against Georgia State, his former team, to see what he can do there.
Yep.
The biggest thing with that running game is where South Carolina can stop him. Obviously, bringing Sherrod Green back from his injury and see how the linebackers do. With that whole core, I think they're going to be solid. But getting Sherrod Green against any kind of running game back is massive.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is that my score prediction, I'm going to go 31 South Carolina, and I'm going to go Georgia State 14.
Okay, like that score. JC, what you got here on Georgia State?
Scary opener. Panthers have 18 starters coming back. You mentioned Sean Elliott, and you've watched kind of the growth of that program over the years. That was not a very good job. They're sort of a fledgling program. It's a gigantic commuter school, sort of like Charlotte. Which people around football tell you Charlotte's a good job. So I don't know why Georgia State shouldn't be, but hey, they play in the old Turner Field now. It's a nice stadium. They've recruited the state well. They do good in the transfer portal. Georgia State last year, 8th in the country in rushing offense. They got everybody back, 226 yards per game on the ground. We're going to find out quickly how much better the Gamecocks run defense is, because then you have Arkansas, who's the 7th. Who was the 7th ranked rushing offense last year in the country. And then Georgia, who always wants to run the ball. So you got 3 games right there where you're going to know real quick if they've gotten better against the run. Like I said before we got on the show, I don't give score predictions so much unless it's the week of the game. But I'm going to go ahead and call this one because, it is kind of the week of the game. There's not another game to go on. So I think just kind of like the other two, Carolina 35, I think Georgia State 21. I think a lot of people are going to probably be a little grumpy about the result, right? But you look at Georgia State, they went into Auburn last year, should have won the football game, went into Tennessee and smacked them in the mouth in 2019. And then at other times they've gotten blown out at like North Carolina and NC State. But you give those guys an SEC team to kind of shoot at, they're going to take their shot. I'm sure it's not going to be an easy game plan for the Gamecocks defense coming up on the first night of the season.
Yeah. Okay. So we all feel strongly about this being a win, but this is not, like I mentioned earlier, this is not going to be your Eastern Illinois opener type game for sure. Right. Yeah. So, okay. let's move on. We got Arkansas. We are on the road going to Fayetteville. 9-4 last year, 4-4 in conference. I would say a pretty solid season for Arkansas. Bold win over Penn State. It's funny. I wanted to look this up. We actually have the lead over Arkansas all time, 37-22. But Arkansas has won the last two matchups. The player that the buzz around that team, KJ Jefferson, obviously, one of the top quarterbacks in the SEC. 21 touchdowns and 4 interceptions last year. They also have 3 running backs, who had 500 yards plus. So they're going to run the ball for sure, 100%. So JC, I'll start with you here on Arkansas. What do you think about this matchup?
This is one I'll give scenarios on, and so if South Carolina can stop the run or be improved against the run, I don't think you're going to shut them down just because Kendall Briles to me is one of the best offensive coordinators in the country. I've always been intrigued by what his dad's offense could do in the SEC. And then lo and behold, the last 2 years, you got Lane Kiffin running a variation of it. You got Kendall running a variation of it at Arkansas. And then Josh Heupel comes to Tennessee and runs yet another variation of it. All of it works, so Clayton White's got his hands full with kind of the misdirection they use. Sometimes they use straight power. Their backup quarterback, guys, scares the you-know-what out of me. Malik Hornsby, I watched the Outback Bowl that they beat Penn State in last year. That dude's lightning in a bottle. And so you got KJ Jefferson, who's going to sit there and power run you to death, good arm, good command of the offense. Then they put Hornsby in, and it's a different tempo. And so as a defensive player, you have to adjust to that because that's a touchdown. If you don't adjust, he's going to score a touchdown. I look at their defense. Barry Odom certainly is an excellent coordinator. They don't have a lot of returning guys, but they did well in the portal. They got Drew Sanders from Alabama and some other guys. So I think, and Bumper Pool, of course, is back. One of my favorite names. South Carolina can stop the run and take advantage of what should be sort of an inexperienced defense. Coming off a tough game with Cincinnati, I think the Gamecocks could win somewhere in the neighborhood of 31-28. Okay. If the Gamecocks cannot stop the run, they have trouble running the ball. Unfortunately, I think Arkansas takes it probably around something around 35-20, something like that. Okay. It'll be a long day in Fayetteville if the Gamecocks can't run it and can't stop the run.
Gotcha. Lindsay, what's your situation on this matchup here?
I think it's like in true Carolina fashion. It's always like we seem to get the West teams that are trending up that we have to play. So now like Arkansas is back and Sam Pittman's done a great job there. And so of course we get them, on the schedule. So I feel like second game of this season, we're going to be tested early, obviously, like we've all said. I think KJ Jefferson is huge. And also, like you said, they're just a physical team. I mean, they're big, they're scary, they're going to run the ball, and we're going to have to match up well against that. I'm intrigued to see what this new offense with Rattler leading us, what we can do. I think the one saving grace is that it'll be an 11 a.m. Central Time, so noon game for us.
That's a good point. Very good point.
The atmosphere won't be as hostile as it could be. I don't know. But I think it's going to be a true measure for our team early to see what the rest of this season is going to look like for us. I mean, are we going to be that scary kind of sneaker team in the East, or are we going to flop? And I'm not discounting Arkansas by saying that. I'm just saying more for our team. What can we expect from us moving forward, especially getting geared up to play the defending national champions the following weekend. So I hope for a healthy game, no injuries. I think that we won't be able to pull it out. I have a loss for this game, 21-27, Arkansas winning. But I think we'll be able to match up. I hope we will. I think stopping the run and being able to execute our run game, like JC said, is going to be huge. So there you go.
Zach, what you got there, bud?
I mean, really two things. Arkansas, I believe they played Cincinnati the week before. And I
Yes.
know Cincinnati is not Cincinnati from last year. I completely get that with all they lost. But it depends on how that game goes, what's really going to take into this game coming up. I feel like if Arkansas blows out Cincinnati, I feel like maybe South Carolina's got a better chance. The reason why, because they can, high and mighty. But then again, Sam Pittman has got those guys on the right mindset, and they're doing great. I mean, Sam Pittman has built up Arkansas. This is not your Brett Bielema Arkansas. This is a really good Arkansas team.
Yeah.
I would say what's going to play, in my opinion, losing Treylon Burke, I think that's going to be bigger than what most people think. Arkansas doesn't bring back a ton of wide receiver threat. I think the guy that had the most might have been like a 300-yard receiver, something like that. So kind of given all that, I think that could just play in South Carolina's favor. But I do feel like Arkansas, like I said, they're on the up, and I really feel like it could either go one way or the other. But I'm going to have to say South Carolina loses this one by possession, maybe 27-24.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have South Carolina losing this game as well. My score is just a little higher than y'all's. I'm at 38-21. The 11 a.m. start, yeah, I know. I mean, that's perfect time to play them, but I just think I don't know. Something about KJ, the quarterback, I just think he's going to go all ball out against us. I don't know why, but I just feel like he will. So, okay, moving on from that game, going to Georgia. A matchup we don't want to talk about, but we have to. Obviously, national championship winners last year. Lost a lot of talent, though, especially on the defensive side of the ball. 5 first-round picks, defensive players, that is. I'm trying to think, how many players have we had in the first round drafted? I know I'm throwing this out of left field here, but I want to say 2. JC, maybe? With Melvin Ingram and Gilmore, that's the most we've had?
In one season, in one draft?
In one draft, yes.
I think so. I'd have to go back. Was Brad Edwards a first round pick or not?
That's a good question.
Because I think Sterling Sharp and he were in the same draft, and Sterling was a first rounder. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean it's been a while. But regardless, I mean that's 35 years ago, guys. It's been a while,
Yeah.
It's like
we're just sitting here like,
people don't think about it because Sidney Rice and Alshon Jeffrey had such good careers in the NFL. But they were both second rounders. So first rounder, no, you hadn't. Carolina's been good for about 1 a year, but never 5. And that Georgia defense last year was. I've not seen a defense like that in college football since 1992, Alabama. And if you remember that Alabama team, that was before they got rolling, but they did win a national championship that year and played Miami, who was really rolling at the time. And the Sugar Bowl just dominated them physically with defense. And I've never seen a defense that dictated a game like Georgia, or I haven't seen it in so long. So that was a historically good defense, folks.
That Georgia Arkansas game, I don't know if you guys watched that. It was at noon last year. I think we played later that night, so I was here just watching the games. You just mentioned the defense. That like I said, that Georgia Arkansas game was just insane. How Georgia just dictated the line of scrimmage that game. So yeah, you're right. I mean, I totally agree with you there. Lindsay, what you got on this matchup?
Quick
laugh before we start.
I mean, I know. I mean, what is there to say? I mean, Georgia is the defending national champions. Like I said, of course, they're our first East opponent that we'll face. We'll have them at home. Be a hot one in Williams-Brice at noon. But I appreciate and I love what Beamer's building, and I'm excited for what this team can do in the future. But y'all know Georgia's just top tier right now. It's going to be too much to overcome for us. I hope it's close. I hope it's a decent showing. It's hard to tell. Yeah, they lost a lot, but I feel like they're just at a point where they're just kind of, replenishing. I mean, it's going to be a lot of the same. I have a loss here, obviously. Unfortunately, I have Georgia beating us 35-17.
35-17. Okay.
Yeah.
Zach, where are you at with this matchup, bud?
I feel like this one's gonna be closer than most people think. I feel like South Carolina may keep it, till the third quarter, and I think just the fourth quarter is just personnel that Georgia has compared to South Carolina. I think that's what's ultimately going to take them in this one.
Okay.
I feel like with South Carolina, having the home field advantage, but the problem is it's 12 o'clock at noon. So it could be a problem, and it could be a good thing too. It just depends on how many people are going to fill out that the stadium. Muschamp's coming back to town. We know how people feel about Muschamp.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is that heat. There may be people that have tickets and they see what that heat's going to be that day, the heat index. They may not go. I mean, it's a thing. I don't know why we're scheduling that game at noon. I thought that was a terrible idea personally, but I'm not the one that makes those decisions. But I will say this: I feel like South Carolina, like I said, will lose, like I said, late in the game. But I feel like Georgia will at least win by 2 possessions. So my score on that one is 35-27.
35-27. Okay. Your two scenarios, JC, score-wise,
No,
with this game.
It's interesting because Georgia, by the way, the 2 out of the last 3 noon kickoffs at Arkansas, Gamecocks have won, including 52-7 in 2013. The last 2, Georgia Carolina games rarely at noon, and we ask who makes those decisions. It's the Southeastern Conference. They don't. I guess they didn't have a whole lot of hope for this game this year. But last 2 times the Gamecocks have played Georgia at noon, 2019. Gamecocks won in Athens, 2010. That was the Marcus Lattimore breakout game, 17-6. So Carolina's on a 2-game winning streak when it's a noon kickoff, right?
Yeah,
it's been 13 years, right? But and sometimes the Gamecocks play better. If you guys hadn't noticed, sometimes they play better at noon than a big night game. So that's a weird thing. But I think what this whole season with Georgia is going to tell us, I think there's been a lot of assumption. They're recruiting rankings wise as good as Alabama, and so therefore they are Alabama, and they're just going to reload. I don't know that you can give them that right now. I really don't. I think
totally agree there.
And that's nothing against Kirby Smart and that program. That it's more about last year's Georgia team being just so special. I mean, just so rare. I mean, you have a defensive end that run in Travon Walker at 6'5", 251, because of the combine and runs 4.51. Are you kidding me? I don't care what's and I covered national recruiting for a long time. I don't care what star rating you are as a DN. You don't just do that. Right. And he ended up being the number 1 pick in the draft. So obviously there's going to be somewhat of a drop off. I do think Georgia will come in confident because I have no faith in Oregon or the hire they made. I think they're going to wax Oregon in the opener, kind of like the old Georgia way. They're going to be physical. They're going to play defense. I don't think the defense is just going to shut people out or dictate the game, but they're going to have enough to have a convincing win. They have a cupcake in between Oregon and Carolina, but this is the first road test. I think if South Carolina again can stop the run, I think that's if you keep Georgia from running it limits what they can do offensively. You got to keep Stetson Bennett in check, and the Gamecocks have to move the ball up and down the field. You don't have to do it every drive, but you got to get enough. If that's the case, I can see South Carolina straight up winning the game, 23-20, something like that.
Oh, wow.
Exciting, close down to the wire game. If not. Unfortunately, the Gamecocks can't run it and they can't stop the run. It's going to be another long day in Columbia against the Bulldogs, 34-10, something like that. That's how important the entire running game and run defense is when you talk about South Carolina this year. It's just there's too many teams that can run it well and that can shut you down on the ground for the Gamecocks not to get a lot. I mean, we talk about Rattler in the offense and the passing offense, but this run offense, Marshawn Lloyd, Christian Beal-Smith, Jaheim Bell, dare I say, even Rattler, they've got to get yards this year, and the Gamecocks have to not be Swiss cheese against the good teams against the run this season.
Gotcha. Well, like you said, we're going to be tested the first 2 games, our run defense against Georgia State and Arkansas. So we'll see what we can do there with those guys. So anyways, moving on to Charlotte. 5-7 last year, 3-5 in conference. Can't tell you too much about Charlotte if you want me to be honest. They did beat Duke last year. That was their biggest win. They have a quarterback that threw for 2,600 yards last year, 26 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. This is another matchup that this will be the first time we played them, or excuse me, another first time matchup. Zach, what can you tell me about Charlotte a little bit, man?
I think Charlotte is it's one of those appealing teams that it's a good job people like looking at, and we've had a couple guys go there. I think Jason Barnes most recently went there from South Carolina.
Yeah,
I think he's coaching over there now. I think I may be wrong on that, but I feel like Charlotte just it shouldn't be close. I mean, it's one of those things that South Carolina and Charlotte should not be on the same page. South Carolina should
totally agree with you there.
take them down, man. It shouldn't be close. I mean, maybe 35-7 for me on that one.
Okay. Lindsay, what you got?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know much about UNC Charlotte, but I agree with Zach as far as it shouldn't be a close game. It should be one that is a tune-up, right, that we can kind of take control over. I don't think it's going to be close either. I have it 38-10 Carolina. And yeah, let's keep it moving.
Yeah. What you got on Charlotte, man?
Beware of this game because Will Healy is supposed to be a rising star in coaching. He's coached in 2 tough spots. Austin Peay is a terrible job. He won there. Charlotte is fledgling, sort of like Georgia State, and he's taken them to a bowl game. Of course, Montario Hardesty, Gamecocks running backs coach, came from Charlotte. It's one of those because of so if you get your tail whipped by Georgia, you come out the next week probably be a little down or something. I don't know. Shane Beamer does a great job of keeping his guys back up, but maybe you don't wake up and it's 10-7, something like that. You beat Georgia, you could run into a trap. Overall, and I'll go ahead and call this one and not give the scenarios. I think Carolina, just kind of looking at how Charlotte plays and how Carolina's supposed to play this year, I think they'll win comfortably, probably 34-7 in this one, and get back on if they lose, get back on the right track. If they win the first 3 or whatever, then pandemonium for the next couple of weeks in Williams-Brice, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we all agree there with Charlotte. So SC State next, 7-5, finished 5-0 in the MEAC. They beat Jackson State at the end of the year, and what was that? The Celebration Bowl, I believe that was called.
Yeah.
131-10. Guys, I'm gonna say it. Another game, we should walk in and just win. Zach, where you at with this one?
Yeah, it's one of those,
exactly.
Man. I mean, hey, you gotta love Buddy Pugh, man. I mean, class act, love him from South Carolina. Great guy, and he's done great with that program. And he's put some good players, into the league. Obviously Leonard, of course, being the most recent one. But once again, it shouldn't be close. I can't remember the last time we played SC State. I think it was maybe 2009, 2008, something like that. Lottie Adgerboy had his big man touchdown in that game. But I will say this: I think, like I said, it should be like a 49-7, maybe 49-0. It shouldn't be close. I mean, we should blow them off, from the line of scrimmage and blow them off every time. It should be one of those that we see a quarterback not named Spencer Rattler in, of course, just as like in Charlotte. So like I said, I don't have this one close at all.
Okay. And JC,
do not have defensive lapses in this football game. Shaquan Davis, this guy's going to be in the NFL. He'll be the next guy. 6'5" from Somerville.
Huge.
The next AJ Green, dare I say, since he's a former Green Wave player. Went off in the bowl game. Caught about 40 passes last year. He's hard to cover. You can't always cover this guy one-on-one. He's a freak. It's kind of like when Georgia Tech one year, they weren't that good. They had Reggie Ball at quarterback who was mediocre, but they had Calvin Johnson. And Calvin Johnson, you can ask Clemson that year because they were down 10 late against Clemson. Calvin and Ball throws 2 jump balls to Johnson. All of a sudden they lost. So I'm not saying South Carolina State will be in this position to throw 2 jump balls and win. I'm just saying you have to be careful. Former Gamecock Bennett Swaggart is their offensive coordinator. I think this guy's a rising star in coaching. He'll have some things dialed up for his alma mater. But as you mentioned, who mentioned the line of scrimmage? You mentioned the line of scrimmage. I think that's the difference in this one. I think South Carolina will be able to line up and run it. And I think their defensive line will have a good day, putting pressure on the passing game, stopping the run. So I think Carolina wins something around, 34-14. It won't be a big 58-0 kind of deal because I think SC State's going to be pretty good at their level this year. And I could see Carolina, running clock or whatever at the end. You don't want to run it. You don't run it up on Buddy Pugh, man. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
So I see that happen. Maybe Carolina gets up 34-7, empties the bench, and State gets a late touchdown. Should be a great atmosphere though. Hope they bring their marching band. That's always fun. I like playing South Carolina State. I think it's good for the state, good for that program, good for the thousands of SC State fans that are in Columbia. It's just a good deal when the Bulldogs play the Gamecocks.
Okay. All right. Well, here's a game I've been wanting. I've had this circled on my calendar. This matchup, this game here, Kentucky, 10-3 last year, 5-3 in the SEC. I mean, they had a solid year. What can you say? But I just think they took advantage of a weak schedule. I don't know if y'all agree with me on that, but that's just where I stand with that. Gamecocks lead the overall series 18-14. Obviously, when you hear about Kentucky, you hear about Will Lewis, their quarterback, 2,800 yards, 24 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. And their running back, Chris Rodriguez, who came back, guy went off last year, 1,400 yards on the ground. They did lose their top receiver. I can't remember what round he went in exactly, but he had over 1,000 yards. But this Kentucky team, Zach, what you got on these guys? This game is away, by the way. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it's up there in Lexington. Can't remember the last time we beat them in Lexington. It's been a little while, but think about it. I'm not big on Will Levis to begin with, and the reason why South Carolina lost last year, not besides the fact they couldn't get offensive game plan going, but also the same fact is that Chris Rodriguez is the one that really sealed that game. And I don't know what's going on with Chris Rodriguez. He's had some issues in the offseason. I don't know if anything's going to happen with that or not. JC probably knows more than I do on that, of course. But I would say, depending on, if we can stop the run, I feel like South Carolina could finally get a win in Kentucky. Now, I'm not saying they're not a good team or anything, because, Stoops has done a great job with that program. A terrific job. But I feel like South Carolina if they can do the right things, I feel like they can finally get that win over Kentucky, get over that hump, and roll on, man. It's a win that's needed, and if they do that, people are going to be talking.
Okay.
I feel like it's going to be one of those. If South Carolina wins, it's going to be a 28-21 game.
Okay. I'm at 23-20. That's funny. Where are you at, Lindsay, with this matchup?
Yeah, I agree. It's like almost the dreaded Kentucky matchup, just in that, like y'all said, if we can't get over the hump with them, Will Levis, Chris Rodriguez, I have the same notes down as y'all. I do agree with you, Zach, with the whole Will Levis thing. I'm not really bought into like how fabulous he is. However, I think it's more on our offense. As far as like winning this game, we need to score points, extend drives. I don't know that defensively Kentucky is as scary as other SEC opponents will face. However, I think it'll be close. I actually had the same score that you had, Zach, 28-21, winning possibly on like a late fourth quarter drive in Lexington. But I do think that we can win this game for sure.
Okay. JC, you in agreement with everyone, or?
Yeah, I am. I think I have a good feeling about this game. I'll tell you this. I think Chris Rodriguez will be back. I think what this is Mark Stoops maybe doing a little gamesmanship. If you notice, Kentucky plays this same schedule every year, right? It's some cupcakes. It's 3 cupcakes, Louisville, and then the SEC. And this year you got Northern Illinois, Youngstown State, Miami of Ohio. They go to Florida week 2, My guess is he'll sit for Miami of Ohio, and then no comment the rest of the week. And then in Gainesville, Chris Rodriguez will be on the field, and he'll be on the field unless he gets injured for the rest of the year. So, I think that when you look at them, and I'm in agreement. Levis, I like his skill set. I think he has prototype size and an arm and can play in the NFL. Wow, the hype train got up.
It's there.
He's that guy though, like a Blake Bortles type. And he's faster than Blake Bortles. Don't get me wrong. Blake Bortles had cement shoes on, but he's that guy there's going to be a lot of hype around that the pros love. They aren't always the best college quarterbacks, and I think he'll miss Wan'Dale Robinson, even though they do have they have good receivers. They're probably not at the level that Robinson's at. They're going to try to run the ball. They lost 3 starters on the offensive line of what was one of the best offensive lines in the country last year, and they lost people on defense, and they lost Eric Wolford as their offensive line coach too. So they got a new O-line coach, 3rd in 3 years, and we know at Carolina how that can kind of confuse some guys. I think it's time for South Carolina to beat Kentucky. I think the expectations in Lexington, Mark Stoops has a solid program. They're rightfully higher than maybe they are about South Carolina nationally. But I look at it, I'm like, man, this is a chance because on paper, I think the Gamecocks have too many weapons to not move it against this defense and to not be able to slow or stop them. So I think unless the run defense is awful and the run offense is awful, and that's what happened last year. Kentucky outrushed them 224-48. And that's how they've been winning 7 out of 9 in this series is they outrun Carolina. I think you can at least get even on that. Carolina's got Spencer Rattler, some weapons on the perimeter, good enough on defense. I think they do break the sweet streak and win in Lexington for the first time since 2012 and only beat Kentucky for the 3rd time since Stoops has been there. I think, 31-22. Something like that. I don't know that if Carolina's firing on all cylinders that it will necessarily be a 4th quarter type of game.
Gotcha. Okay.
That was bold. I know. I mean, I'm gonna probably look like an idiot, but that's one game I'm going to. I have plans. I'm gonna do the Bourbon Tour. I'm gonna go to Keeneland, the horse racing, we're going to make kind of a weekend of it. So I won't have to face my critics until Monday if it doesn't work out. So that'll be good.
Gotcha. So for the most part, we would 4-2 through these first 6 games.
Yeah, I think that'd be a heck of a start. I mean, really, I do. I think it could be better. I don't. And guys, as Beamer builds here, my whole take on this is I am much more bullish on 2022 than I believe I will be on 2023. I think if you look at it, this is one of those second years where you have a lot left over from the previous staff, and then you've done well enough putting guys in position through your own recruiting and the portal. And look around the league. Sam Pittman, we talked about at Arkansas, won 3 games his first year in all SEC schedule. They won 9 last year. Kirby Smart went 8-5 and lost to Vanderbilt his first year at Georgia. The next year they played for all the marbles. Nick Saban, 6-7 with a loss to Louisiana, or 7-6 with a loss to Louisiana Monroe. His first year, and then the next year they played in the SEC championship game. Mark Richt, when he was at Georgia, first year 8-4, lost to Boston College in the Liberty Bowl. The next year won the SEC. There are examples, unless you are in a complete black hole, which I don't think South Carolina is, roster-wise, where that second year, things get going. Even Dabo Swinney, his first full year, but his second year after the 7-game interim stint, he won their first division title in the ACC Atlanta Cup at Clemson. So the second year usually looks good. Spurrier got a little better his second year. Lou Holtz, of course, had the great turnaround. Muschamp went from 6 wins to 9 wins his second year. A lot of times in your second year, you have enough left over, and there's a lot left over, really. And then enough new to where your new guys are kind of maturing and stuff like that to where you have the roster to go compete. So I look at it, and this could be a much better season than people are talking about. And had it not been for some recent history and maybe some ugly games last year, I think more people would be a little higher on South Carolina. And I think you have the stigma with Rattler getting benched or whatever, whatever. Yeah, hey, that's fine, but this is a new school and a new situation.
Yeah.
And so I think some of those things may be dragging expectations down a little bit. And internally, like with all of us, I think we've just kind of had the rug pulled out from under us too much lately. So we're all like, oh, wait a minute. I don't know if I want to quite go there yet. But this is the best roster South Carolina's had since 2013. There's more depth, more good players, more potential playmakers, more speed, more talent than at any point since 2013. I'm not saying they're going to win 11 games and finish fourth in the country. That's not what I'm saying at all, because there's a lot of good teams in the SEC, right? Yeah. But if you kind of compare it back and go, there are less holes than maybe there's been for the last 9 years or so.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. JC said I had 30 minutes. JC, sorry, we went over 15 minutes. So
I don't care. I was having a good time. I'm just it delayed my brunch meeting with my fiance a little bit, but
you need to get out of here.
Well, she had a snack earlier, so that means. That means actually, since she had a snack, she's not like ready to kill me. So
she's not hangry.
Yeah, what they say. Hangry. Yeah. The other day we're rolling out somewhere, and it's like there's no talking till I eat. So I was like, I had to shut up and all that. So, but anyway, pleasure being with you guys today.
Yes. Thank you, JC, for joining. Zach, thank you for joining as well.
Absolutely.
Guys, we will be returning next weekend for part 2 of our Gamecock football season breakdown. Until then, go Cox.
Go Cox.